there, good evening, welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt. It's a pleasure to welcome you back to the channel for a wee post-match look back to, of course, this evening's match, which was Celtic 4, Utrecht 2. Celtic managed to progress. I say managed, we'd expected it, let's be totally honest. Utrecht were down and out, they were completely out of it, and expectations were low, but you never knew. There was always a banana skin potential in there. But yes, Celtic have got themselves through to the next phase, or at least that what they call the playoff round of the Europa League, and it looks as if it's going to be either one of Stuttgart or Mr. Keane's Ferencváros. Either way you chop it up, either way you look at it, they are both slightly more desirable ties. There was the worry there that it was perhaps going to be Nottingham Forest at one point, but no, it is certainly winnable ties. But that then brings us back to the big elephant in the room, which is the Celtic squad, the transfer window, because if Celtic want to get through that round against such desirable teams and draws as we could potentially be getting, they need to go and buy players, not just for those games in Europe to try and push on there, but also because the league itself is still very much in the balance. And I think that tonight was a positive result. It was a good score. You would have bit your hand off if you were offered 4-2 at the start of the night, but you still saw that the squad is a wee bit lacking. And that is what it is. But as you'll well know as well, today there was various reports. Again, we say reports because you don't know what to believe at this moment in time. You don't know what to believe when it comes to Celtic. We heard Martin Neill getting questioned once again in his post-match about signing potential, and it was more of the same. So it's names, it's links, it's rumours, it's everything else, but how much of it can we believe? But there's some names, and we'll talk about them. Just to say, it's going to be a wee quick and sharp one tonight. I am here on my own. I'm up first thing tomorrow morning, and there was no one else here to join me. I'm sure every other podcast and their granny are out there. But thank you very much if you're choosing to sit here with ourselves and get that. And if you want to get involved, hit the subscribe. We say it a million times over, but honestly, it does us massive favours, and it costs you nothing to do it. And if you want to help, you can, like Dan the man, who's gifted out. Thank you very much, Dan. 5 memberships to 5 of you lucky people out there. So if you get that wonderful stuff, you can also, if you haven't been gifted one, you can do that on the member section. It is a wee donation to the channel. There's no additional content. All the stuff is free. It's the exact same as the amount of money that Celtic have spent so far, 29 days into the transfer window. But as we know, as we're celebrating tonight, Celtic have qualified for that next phase of the Europa League, which itself brings more money. So let's go and spend it, because of the last time of checking for the two combined transfer windows, summer and now, Celtic have spent around about £13.5 million and posted close to £15 million in profit. Usually Celtic front load the transfers and they like to spend a wee bit more, not as much as we'd like, but they spend usually what you describe as tens of millions of pounds during the summer, and then once we get to January, you get scraps. Well, they didn't do that in the summer, and we're still getting scraps at the moment. So you're hoping, praying that they do manage to get their finger out and start spending it. But let's get down to business. Let's get to the job in hand. You know all the stuff about liking, subscribing, giving us a thumbs up. And down below, you will find all the other links to our socials. Get involved. So let's jump into the deep end. Celtic versus Utrecht. It was the return of Barney the Dinosaur, Barkas, and I'll just get it straight out there. It's good to see that he is still absolutely red rotten. Yes, he was. He was terrible. I think there was that worry where folk were turning around and saying that it was going to be one of those haunting performances where he comes back and he's an absolute worldie and he's an ex-player that was garbage at you, and he comes back and he costs you dearly. Well, that was not the case. If anything, he looked absolutely hell-bent on helping Celtic get through, particularly with that shambolic pass, which of course led to a nice goal for Celtic. Thank you very much, Barcast. That's probably the best thing that you had ever done at Celtic Park. But let's jump off, as we do. Let's have a wee look at where we started off, of course, with the starting lineup. And as you are all saying, as I have said, moan, it isn't the best, is it? You can see straight off the bat, like, this is severely lacking. Of course, there was some issues, as we all know. Araujo, who's been playing very well, isn't eligible. Faranka, again, also not eligible. So it was very much make do with what you've got. Donovan was the natural choice to come in there over Ralston, I would say. It was good to see Tierney making it there because, again, there could have been questions where you could have ended up with a Donovan and Ralston situation, or even shipping Scales over to the left-hand side to make way for the likes of a Dane Murray or something like that. But the rest of the team really, really took care of it. And this here actually was the team, not what Celtic put out. And if you caught that wee faux pas, because before the game, the Celtic social media admin put out the lineup from when we were away to Red Star earlier in the season, and complete with Carter Vickers in the back line. But all the text above it says, here's your lineup for the game against Utrecht. World-class basics. Absolutely world-class basics. And I know, like, we're here to celebrate, but it is, if you didn't laugh at these things, you would absolutely greet, because, well, it's just, it looks bad, doesn't it? You know, in a time when you're trying to win over people and tell us it's going the right direction, you just shoot yourself in the foot with something stupid and embarrassing like that. But this is as we lined up. We knew that Utrecht had been having a bit of a horrible time. We didn't really know what we were going to get. Something of a rotational squad, giving fringe guys a chance, for example. But by and large, Celtic were very much in control. And, you know, you can't argue with it. Getting off the mark nice and early is always going to do you plenty of favours. And again, it's Benjamin Nygren. Much maligned Benjamin Nygren, including from myself. You know, I'll be honest, and I've said time and time again, I think that his advantages and his positives are the fact that he always seems to be in the right place, as he was again tonight. So you've got to give him pass marks there. But the physicality, the pace, the kind of stuff that you actually can't really control, because he's not blessed with pace. He's not going to be one of these absolutely amazing wingers. He's not going to be an amazing midfielder. I think he is very much, he'll give you his all, and he will chip in. Think of him being a wee bit more of a slightly more desirable David Turnbull. That's the best example I can give for you. David Turnbull was just a good player. He was never going to go beyond Celtic. I think Celtic is Benjamin Nygren's maximum. He's not suddenly going to turn into a 25 million player and go to a bigger team and tear up, because he's just not got that. But he'll be a very good player for Celtic. And as long as he keeps on chipping in with all those goals, then I'm absolutely here for it. So big goal start to you, Benjamin Nygren. Celtic's, you know, player, whether we like it or not, whether you agree or not, Celtic's player of the season at this moment in time, just simply on carrying us, on the output of goals. And in terms of value for money, the very little money that we've spent, yeah, he's an absolute bargain. So well done for you. And there we go, exactly 15 goals, 6 assists for Nygren. That is brilliant, because we need the goals to come from somewhere. So absolutely fantastic. And yes, an absolute belter a return for Barkas to Parkhead. I actually quite liked it. I felt a wee bit sorry for Barkas, because you heard some of the ex-players or manager talking about him, and you know, it's a wee bit cheap, but you could kind of see it. Even at the end, Scott Brown says, "I just, you know, picked up very much where he left off with his time at Celtic," and without saying it, when he's shite, he's just shite. He was shite then, and he's still shite now. And even I think Lennon had a bit of a quip, who I will just get out there. Neill Lennon, very much the board apologist tonight. Bit of a red neck, still managing to fluff the nest there just in case, Neill. But he was making a couple of Barkas-esque comments as well, which I did, I'll be honest, I did laugh at, where he sort of says, you know, I'm starting to twitch as well, because he unfortunately had to live through, as did all we, but from a more serious standpoint, the Barkas experience, and it was absolutely minging. But we don't need to worry about Barkas. That is it, absolutely. So let's see who we've got in. There's a couple of these in here. Yes, we'll get Simon here on YouTube. Totally agree. You know, getting through. At the end of the day, let's be happy, let's be grateful. We can look at it objectively, but let's just shelve it. Let's focus. We've got until Monday to take care of some business, get this quality of the squad slightly better, and reset. A wee bit of reset and take it from there. Martin O'Neill's came in. He's got that wee bit of Midas touch. He's managing to, you know, grind out results and get through with poor quality, but help him out, as it says in the tagline. You know, job done, Martin Neill's done his job. The players have stood up and done their job tonight. Now it's time for the board to just go and do their job and help them out, because it's no going to come easily. There's a fight, and wouldn't it be nice not only to get those players in, to kick on and bring ourselves and claw back in to this title race and eventually go on and win it, but wouldn't it nice to go and play either Stuttgart or Fenerbahce, as I say, fairly desirable in the grand scale of things, very winnable games, to go and win that, to get that sort of stone round your neck off of you have no won a knockout game in Europe for God knows how long. Go and do it and then see where it takes you. So Celtic, please just look at it that way. Not only do we desperately need it because of the league, but you've got potentially a favourable draw in Europe. Make a fist of it, because you never know what's going to happen. You know, it sounds daft to say, but get through that one and see what happens. You might go another round or two. Just try it. Go mental. Spend some money. So thank you very much. Yep, there's many in here. Bring it in. Just any of your thoughts on that. What was your thoughts, actually, on the potential draw? Stuttgart or Fenerbahce? I think I would definitely favour Stuttgart over Fenerbahce, just simply because you know that Kovacevic, the one that got away, will be able to play in that game, and he probably would be one that would come back and haunt you. Based on nothing, that's where I'm at with that one. And I also think as well that Fenerbahce have been playing pretty well, and they would fancy themselves against it. Even though I didn't think they were fantastic when I watched them play against Rangers, you know, it's a toss of a coin, but that's very much where I'm at with that one. And Dan saying, talking about these, am I going to be breaking out the funeral suit again? I certainly hope that come Monday. No, I am wearing something that's colourful, bright and vibrant to reflect my mood, rather than being in a sombre and slightly depressed mood like the summer transfer window that you all joined us for there either. And Michael saying he'd rather have Fenerbahce. Yep. I think, to be honest, quality-wise, I think they're both on a par. I really do think that they're both on a par, but I just kind of think that the Robbie Keane effect and the likes of the Kovacevic situation, I don't know, just for me, a wee bit sort of maybe superstitious about those kind of things. I just think that ex-player connection comes back and bites you in the arse, and I'd rather avoid that. But hey, I'll take any result. I'll take any team that's playing. I'm just glad to be through, because we got there, because let's be honest, there was real question marks, wasn't there? Real question marks. We obviously had the result against Midtjylland. That was a sort of standout. We had a great result against Feyenoord, and then we had the Nancy period. Let's try and forget about that. But when you got horsed and hosed off them at Roma, you kind of thought to yourself, right, all the good work that we've done could quickly get undone here. And that was very much the case there. And of course, when you look back, there was even one or two of the results elsewhere could have been better. But the important thing is you've just got to finish in that qualification bracket, and we've done it. But yes, getting a wee bit back to the action, I thought that Celtic looked quite comfortable. And of course, as we know, the OG, the Barkas penned OG, it's a good wee bit of sort of pressing when the loose pass is there, to put it under pressure, get the ball across. It is fortunate it goes in off the back end, but to go 2-0 up inside the opening 10 minutes, you're like, yes, here we go. We're just going to absolutely steamroll them. And I thought that Celtic looked fairly confident all across it. Nobody for me was a standout. It wasn't like we were, wow, this is amazing. I just think the 2 goals early on really knocked the stuffing out of Utrecht, who, as we know, they came into the game, they found a bit of footing, and you saw that they did have a bit of quality, and maybe that reflects them in terms of where their Europa League campaigns went, how their season's kind of going. They probably are a better team than the results are showing, and they do have some quality players, and they gave us a couple of frights throughout the course of the night. Of course they did. Had some good saves in there, some good defending. It could have changed, sliding doors moments, but we got through it. But in that opening period, I think the 2 early goals, it just looked as if, right, this could be anything we want. And then, of course, moving on to the penalty. What do we think of the penalty? See, whenever I saw it getting reviewed, I was like, yeah, are we for real here? Now, I'll be totally honest. I'll always be honest and transparent with you. I think the penalty's a joke. I think the penalty is, and I'll take it. glad-handedly take it, but it's an absolute joke, man. Like, what even is handball? And this is strange enough saying, second goal's in, cruise control for the rest of the game. Yeah, you know what? When it goes and they get the goal and there's a couple of saves and stuff, you're thinking a wee bit nip and tuck. But I think that you kind of would have expected, despite the squad quality, this was a win, a must-win situation. And I always kind of did feel that it got a wee bit scary, but we would have, anyways, you say, pulled on and take care of business. But with the penalty, coming back to it, here's just where I'm at with it. I can fully understand. He does this weird jump now. I hear the commentary. As you'd imagine, where's he meant to put his hands and all that kind of stuff? He jumps with his hands out right in front of him, which is kind of weird. He does this. The only way I can describe it is like one of my wee girls, when they're trying to scare you and they jump out and you, both hands forward, the legs forward, and it's a bit of a sort of weird lunge. It isn't really a natural way to jump forward. So I'm 100% on board with that there. But I just think of, you kind of see him turning away from it. It's almost as if he thinks, Trusty's going to come in and it's maybe to lay hands on him. I don't know. It's all a bit weird. But the proximity, the ball's headed down, it hits him in the arm square, which is outstretched. I get all that. But it's not going anywhere. So I think it's one of the ones that, see if that gets given against you, which you would have, you're going to have your nut. You're absolutely losing the plot. You're saying to yourself, that is honking. It's a red neck. What's a handball? But you'd also sit there and go, right, I get it. The hands are out. So by the letter of the law is to say it's a penalty. Aye, it is. But, and I'll take it. I'm no moaning about getting a penalty. Aye, it's a bit of shambles, isn't it? It's a wee bit, yeah. And there we go. Aye, I know, Europa rules, real European rules. It's not VAR light. I get all it. You're saying there in the comments, 100%. And a penalty by the letter of the law, that is it. It's true. And they are very, very, stickler for the rules. It's everything is done by the book. There's no grey areas like we get in Scotland, or blue areas that we get in Scotland, or in this case maroon areas that we're getting in Scotland as of late. And it's that's what I'm saying, Strange Love. I think it is this almost trying to box space. I actually think that he's probably trying to push Trusty, and he pays the price for it. It's stupid. It's one of those ones that you're absolutely stupid. And at 3-0, at that point, he's absolutely hamstrung his team. They were dead when the second one went in, but when that happens, it's balls burst. The game's over for them, or at least it looked that way there. And it is exactly the type of penalty that Rangers get in the league, and that's it. But Arne Egel steps up, takes care of business. It was one of his more comprehensive, more convincing penalties. Normally goes to that kind of low corner thing. He's taking absolutely no chances. Knows the gravity of it, puts it away. Have some of that. Absolutely brilliant. And that's it. And then, of course, we see the situation. DeWitt, who obviously is, as I said, whenever the handball's given, that was exactly my response was Wit. But he pops up just before halftime. Probably a good time to score, and it is a decent goal. But I think that the biggest problem is, once again, the nature, the defensive side of it, when it comes over to him, is really, really poor. And I would say that on the sort of two occasions that was conceded goals, I would definitely, and it's just not to sort of try and hang anybody out to dry and have a moan for the sake of moaning. I think Tanecki, you know where I'm at with Tanecki, but I think that he was very poor defensively. In the few occasions tonight that Utrecht get some sort of purchase into us, or get a bit of space, or be out of creativity, a lot of it was around and about the areas that Tanecki was doing. He's, again, I keep saying it, he's a deceiver. He looks good on the eyeball and all the running and the stepping over and the wee bit of pace, but there's still no end product. I know you'll direct me a nice goal that he scored a wee while ago there, but we need more in it. We see that tonight as well. When he gets in, brilliant, gets himself into the box and zero composure, and he doesn't even hit it wide. He just hits it straight in front of him, like past the goals and right out the pitch and stuff like that. It is just, he doesn't have the overall quality And that's why we need better attacking options. I thought that Yang tonight, not too bad. I would say better than Taneki, but we still didn't have that same level of potency, and the same with Daisen Maeda. I think Daisen Maeda's just totally given up here. Yeah, those sort of attacking three for me really weren't doing anything. But of them all, I would definitely say that I was really let down by Taneki from a sort of defensive position. And that is something that we are definitely really, really going to have to work on, particularly, to get through the end of the season. But looking at that next game, whether it's going to be Fenerbahce or Stuttgart, if you are going to stay in the Champions League, I wish. If you're going to stay in the Europa League and we're going to actually, as I say, get the stone off our neck and get into another round and get a knockout round win, then we're going to have to start playing a lot better. People are going to have to muck in and improve all over the park. And the likes of guys that are playing out in the wing are going to have to just show a wee bit more. We eventually end up with James Forrest. You know what you're getting out of James Forrest. And I thought, yeah, it was what it was. But again, it just shows you exactly where we are. Of course, whenever we get into that next game, we'll be able to register Arajo. We'll be able to have Kankara and anybody else that we potentially may well sign. But, yep, Taneki for me, that was the poorest of the front three. In fact, maybe even Daisen Maeda, but throw that one in there as you find it. But no, in terms of that, we say decent half-time. 3-1, you'll take a wee bit of that. There's obviously early on, there's another wee sort of point where you think going to get in about it. And then, of course, they do get their second goal. And you just felt I know we score almost inside 5 minutes after it, but you just think to yourself, right, we love making things a wee bit hard for ourselves. And, there was always the potential. Of course there was. There was always the potential that they looked as if they were just growing a wee bit in confidence. And I felt that they improved. Strangely, they improved despite, being 3-1 down and 3-0 down so early on. They still had a wee bit of resilience. Of course, we, as we always do, never really made things particularly easy for ourselves. We gave up some space. We let them get in and causes a wee bit of threats. And I would say as well, I think that Kasper Schmeichel, once again, that we've been criticising, the one that goes in, the second goal, people are criticising, but it's a decent goal. It is a decent goal. And there was moments in the game where he had came out with some, decent saves and some decent work. And again, it is what it is. He's looked a lot better recently than he has before. Particularly, the one earlier on when he gets down and he actually puts it around the post. Those are the kind of key saves at key points in the game that he's been popping up making, because if they go into that sort of stage, things look a wee bit more difficult than they were. If we sort of go into that game 3-2 at half time, we're talking a different story here, and that maybe makes them a wee bit more buoyant, pushes them on a wee bit more. But I thought exactly, and as Fraser's saying, whenever we went 3-0 up, that intensity did drop. Maybe it was a wee bit of complacency. Maybe it was like I said, we're in maybe the players' heads even. They're thinking to themselves, they're just going to fold. We're just going to absolutely take care of business here. But the important thing is we got there and we picked ourselves up. It didn't ever really truly return for me to the same level of intensity that we had shown up to that stage. But we didn't allow it to drop. We sort of realised, right, they've scored a goal here, they've hit another one. We need to get ourselves into this. We need to pick it back up, go through the gears a wee bit more and take care of business. And again, we done it. We got there. Trusty pops up, good header. It's a good ball in, and that's it. As soon as that one goes in and you're back up by 2 goals, you get that 2-goal cushion. I didn't really at any point feel worried or concerned about it. Take care of business, good header, 4-2, settled the nerves back in, and again, I think it settled the players back in as well. Of course, after that, we get another couple of, we get our first 2 substitutions. We get Ian Atchell. It was good to see him coming on. I think that my thought process was exactly what happened with the manager, where it's good to see him back in training, it's good to see him in and around the squad again, but do not rush him. I felt that with Utrecht being pretty much out here, being an absolute non-event for them, and with the sort of wee bit more experimental, playing guys that maybe wouldn't get a game, I thought regardless of how poor our squad is, at home with the crowd behind us, we should be taking care of business. And Iheanacho was not to be rushed. Give him 15 minutes, give him 20 minutes once the game's comfortable. And that's exactly what we managed to get to do. And what I will say is bringing on Iheanacho, I hope and I pray that we can keep him, that we can just nurse him back in. Now that we've got Karanka, it changes things a wee bit, where we can afford to just give him the wee 20, 25 minutes here and there to get to a stage where we can play him a wee bit more. Because when he came on, his hold-up play, his link-up play was just notably levels above anybody else that was on the pitch before him. You know, we know this before. Dyson isn't really a number 9, and we've been depending on the likes of Nigrin almost playing like a false 9 at times to get us the goals. But if you play him outright as a striker, it's no going to work. You just need to allow him to find the space and do his thing, score the goals. But positive for me, Iheanacho coming on, I thought he looked pretty good. I thought, despite his injury, despite the layoff, he looked exactly the way that he did before he got injured, getting in the right positions, holding up the play, dropping, linking wee 1-2s, dropping the shoulder, getting in behind and trying to make the right moves and the right runs. And I think if we can keep him fit between now and the end of the season, he could be a key player, and it would be nice. Obviously, we'll talk just a wee bit there at the end about potential incomings, because we've said that we want to beef up attacking options. But if we could have Karanka, Iheanacho, who knows what may or may not happen with the likes of Maeda, but we'll talk about that and we'll see what goes. But to have those two guys who are recognised proper number 9s, and potentially, fingers crossed, potentially another guy who's versatile, maybe a Mazmanishi, maybe a Casper Haw, but after last night, let's say, get a wee bit real on that one, I think. But yes, very, very good to see that, and positive. In terms of others, I say Forrest comes on, does much of what he does, and then of course we get Yang off, Engels off, both guys on a yellow card, and it's Bernardo and McCown. Again, I didn't really think that either of them done anything to write home about. They didn't have a sudden impact, like, oh my God, that was a good, 12, 15 minutes out in, you showed something. They just came on and stabilised the ship. They just kept us and cruised us through. I think Bernardo, when he gets into the box, he probably should do better. It's a wee bit sort of fortuitous. He maybe overdoes it, tries to poke it around. I think he probably should get a shot off there, but no, it's nitpicking. It is what it is. Him and, McCown were brought on to protect the two guys that were on a yellow card. It's as simple as that. That's why they're brought on, and just to get a wee bit of sort of freshness and see out the game. And they done it. And that's it. So, in terms of the final of the game, let's have a wee look at how it panned out with the stats. Fairly comprehensive. Nothing, as I say, it wasn't a dominant performance. 4-2. You're not going to sniff at that. A good result. Take it all day long. It wasn't like it was patchy, is the way I would describe it. There were some really good periods. As we said, when we go 3-0 up, the intensity's there. We're running about, we're covering the grass. We look like we're really right up for it, like we hadn't been in a long time. We then take the foot off the accelerator a wee bit. There's a couple of scares, but by and large, we then realise, push on, take care of business, and then we manage to settle and see out the game. And I think that's good sort of game management. And it's something that, let's be totally honest, that we have lacked throughout the course of the season. Under Nancy, we lacked everything. But even at points under Brendan, where it was just keeping that calm and keeping my lid on it. And that's the one thing that we've managed to do under the two spells of Martin and Neill. Now, I was sort of criticised at times by saying, you'll cast your mind back. Such and such a result was still potentially in the post under a Neill. And I stand by that, because, as I've said here, the results, or the performances, I should say, weren't always glittering. They weren't always, swashbuckling and edge of your seat excitement stuff. Sometimes they looked a wee bit sort of gritty, but he got the job done. And see, between now and the end of the season, that is all that matters. Getting the job done. I will take 1-0 wins to the end of the season to get over the line. I don't care how they come. I'll take 1-0s with every single goal scored being an OG for the opposition. I don't care. Just get through it, game manage, and take care of it. But as you can see in the end, as you'd expect, Celtic, all the touches in the opposition box, the lion's share of the shots, the lion's share of the possession. Yep, goalkeeper, pretty much not to do. And of course, Celtic committing a lot of fouls as well. This is weird, isn't it? The corners, I don't need to talk to you about the corners. You know that I think we score one off a set piece, which is nice. But again, we don't ever really take full advantage of the set pieces. And that's something, that's another for another day. Who cares? But let's just wrap it all up and bring it together. It says we're doing a wee fast one, so apologies if you think I'm rushing through it here. I am up at crack of dawn tomorrow. Paddy will be joining us back at the weekend. He's got an early morning 6 a.m. chopper back for the middle of the North Sea over here. So we are both up at stupid o'clock for our respective works tomorrow. So that's why we're going through it. But as I said at the top of the show, as we heard Martin Neill at the end, getting questioned, quizzed, under the lamp again about these links, these potential signings. Now, first one that we spoke about, obviously, the other day was the most favourable of them all, which was, of course, Kasper Ho playing at Bodo Glimt. Now, Norwich had said to have put in a bid of £7 million plus add-ons. Now, the variables in this were, as you know, Bodo Glimt had an outside chance of going through. And Kasper scored the goal that just so happened to put them through into the next round as they beat Atletico Madrid 2-1. So that's 3 goals in the Champions League in these last 2 outings. And despite that, Bodo Glimt still appear happy to let him go. But I think you would be kidding yourselves on if they maybe don't want another £1 or £2 million on top of it. When I first spoke about this one, I says, you have got to be talking absolute bare minimum, 10 million quid for this guy. Then plus your add-ons. Now, we've not really heard anything about that developing or not developing, if there's been any further progression from Norwich, if there's been any advances from elsewhere. If Bodo went, we're now in the Champions League next phase, he's not for sale. We don't know. But Celtic now, as I said earlier on, and as you will be aware of, aside from all the money we've got in the bank, aside from the net spend of that so far in this transfer window, we've only spent about £13 million in this entire season. And we're still about 15 in the green, in the positive, that we've not spent. So, just go and get him. If you really are heart set on going and getting a quality striker, go and give them it. You paid 11 million quid for Arne Engels. Now, this isn't an Arne Engels flogging match, but what I'm saying is the two things are completely different. That was a young guy, shown promise, who had a price put on him because of all the potential. If you could go and get this guy for £10 million, or even 11, or even 12, I know you'll laugh at me. Steve-o, Celtic are never fucking paying that. I know all these things. It goes through my head a million times. But if they are serious, and if the reports and all the chatter around the sort of campfire of despite the word being that Celtic only want to do loans and such and so forth and all this, they are willing to push the boat out and sign a striker of a certain pedigree and pay the money to do it. If you believe those words that have been spoken, then go and do it. Because if you can do it on Engels, who's really kind of an untested entity, go and get a guy who's been a solid performer for 2 seasons for his team, domestically and in Europe, and has, as of recent, 3 goals in the Champions League. Just go and do it. Just go and do it. And we also have the positive where we can say, all right, you are in the Champions League, but we're still in the next phase of Europe, and look at the draw that we've got. And with you, we'll be confident that we can go through and we can maybe make another round or another 2 rounds or whatever. Join us. Here's the money. You into it. And that's it. And as Michael's saying, forget Hot. It's not happening. I fully agree with you, mate. I really, really do. There's the difference between what I want and what we're going to get. And that is the thing. But I'm just saying, for discussion's sake, if that's something where, and it's funny, the more it happens, the more I believe what I said the other day, where it goes, I feel this has got the Dolbergs about it. And I know you'll point to that he went to Ajax and it's not quite worked. What I mean is a certain pedigree, a certain stature, where you go, that's what we need, and a certain fee attached to it. And then it doesn't happen. And then it's, well, you see, we tried to get these really expensive players. We set the bar so high, and it's just hard to get these deals done. Almost like a wee smoke screen, like a magician trying to divert your eyes for the reality, which is, well, we're never going to fucking do that anyway. But we can live, and we can pray, and we can hope, and all that kind of stuff. But Kasper Høj, yep, the goalposts have definitely just moved there, all the way over there. And if Celtic are serious, they need to do it. Now they know where they are. Now they know they've got more money. Fucking go and do it. You've got something to sell. And same as well, there's the reports saying about this idea of Celtic pivoting from loans to looking at permanence. And there was the chat of, perhaps Martin and Neill is a bit apprehensive about buying players on a permanent basis because the next manager that comes in may not like those players. And to that, I say this: don't talk shite. That is a lot of pish, right? And I'm being so blunt, excuse my French about it, but I am pretty sure any manager, now I know that some managers will go and buy very specific players to play to a very specific style. When you look at the players that Celtic have apparently been linked with, right? They are just simply good players in their respective positions that have a wee bit of flexibility, a wee bit of sort of adaptability, right? Now, I might be wrong on this one, but let's just take Mazvanishi, for example, because he's the easy one to go for, right? 4 million quid, an absolute layup. You've seen him for 2 seasons. He's performed well. He's levelled up for the first season, the second season. And you know, as closest to a sure thing you'll get, that there's no settling, there's no changing to the sort of country, there's no changing to the type of play, the league or anything like that. He's literally getting dropped in to a better team with better players around him. And usually that'll be enough to do it, right? No manager comes in and says, see that guy that's been really good the past 2 seasons for his team that we've signed, and he's actually, this is me making the assumption that he plays well, and he's been playing well for us as well. Nah, they're on the fucking bin. Don't want him. Or let's just say a Casper Hall. Oh, see that guy that you signed that's a really good centre forward that's been playing well for the past 2 seasons at Bodo Glimt, played in the Champions League, played the Europa League, and he's now been playing for years and he's helped us get to whatever the point may be, hopefully a league win, and he scored X goals. Nah, I don't want him. He's not. Don't talk shite. Good players will always play. It's really as simple as that. And yes, there has been some sketchy kind of like, I'm not too mad on that type of links. And by the way, 2 of the guys that I'm about to talk about, maybe I find that for me a wee bit as well. But there's certain qualities of players that any manager will come into. Now, see what you think when a manager comes into a club and they get rid, unless your name's Tony Mowbray, who just gutted the team of the spine and all the experience and just literally was stupid and get rid of good players. Generally speaking, when a manager comes in, they get rid of 2 types of players who are just actually shite, full stop, and they are garbage, or ones with a bad attitude. That's normally what happens. That is normally what happens with these kind of things. But don't believe any of that if you think that there's this worry that we can't pick certain types of players because, they might not suit a manager's thing. Total garbage. Absolute nonsense. So, aside from the sort of, at this moment in time, pipe dream that appears to be of Casper Hall, who else have we been linked with? So, there's 2 names you'll be familiar with. First is Damir Rezic, who is playing at Dunstrat Streda. And, of course, this is another one that there's been interest from Red Bull Salzburg, apparently as well. Playing Hungary, and he's obviously 22, young guy. These are both wingers as well. I don't know, but I think it's, selling it a bit sort of low. We'll bring him up. But I think that for me, the 2 guys we've been linked with today, the 2 wingers, I don't personally think that either of them are blowing my socks off. And obviously we read Rezic here. There was word that he was also linked with Rangers. Take that as you find it, not using that as some barometer of why we should or shouldn't sign this guy. But it appears that he's potentially been a guy that's been offered around the houses by a agent. So here's what I've got off him so far. We bring up our trusty friend at Transfermarkt to see, he's playing. This is the most important thing here. And of course, in that Hungary sort of setup at unders, only the 1 cap to his name, but he is still young, 22. Let's go and have a wee look at his stats and see how he has been performing. I don't think his output is massively good. I don't think it's hugely impressive. As I said with Taneki, now you'll say, well, 7 goals and 1 assist. Yeah, good there. Good there. But is that just a wee hot patch? Is that a wee hot streak? Because when we look down the list there, it isn't massively impressive. Maybe this is his breakout season, or it could be his purple patch and they are looking to capitalise. In terms of the fee, it's not massive. The sample size isn't huge. 92 outings, 24 goals, 9 assists. It isn't the worst. Look, it isn't the worst, but aye, could it be another Taneki? Could it be another Balaquisha? Potentially. And he's also not exactly a giant, so we're going down that same look of the kind of small stature players that for me, and I just feel I'm getting another Taneki vibes off this guy. He might, see, at the end of the day, he might just come in and set it on fire. And see, as daft as it sounds, because obviously I don't want to waste money. But if these guys come in, if it were to be these guys, and they come in and they take care of the job between now and the end of the season, and then they turn out to be absolute guff during the summer, or the start of the next season, then we'll worry about that bridge when we cross it. But I think at this moment in time, we still need to get players on. I think of the winger situation, for me, I would look beyond Rezic, and I'd look beyond Gedimus as well. As far as Gedimus, the boy from Frosinone, Frosinone, I don't know how you spell it, say their name, fuck me, bad for that anyway. Serie B, I don't think either of these guys are fantastic. I think I would rather go for Tawanda Masmanise because he's got the option where he's versatile, can get through the middle, but he can also be used as a winger. That would be, for me, the one that I would go and spend the money on. But of course, as we say, there is another contender. And yes, Frosinone, playing at Frosinone, and it's Fares Gajimis. Let's bring him up. Again, Serie B, I know you'll say, Rangers looking at a guy in the German third league, but that's fine. They can go and do that. I really don't care. I think, to be honest, just mention that in the passing, I think it's quite a rich price tag that's been put on that guy. But, that's fine. Knock yourself out if they want to do that. But I'm more concerned about what Celtic are or aren't going to be doing. And I just think that, again, looking at Fares Gajimis, I think off the stature, is it the kind of guy that I want involved at Celtic? Is it really got that X factor that's going to really kick us on? And for me personally speaking, no, I don't. French right winger, still 23, quite young, playing about Serie B. Let's have a wee look at stat attack here. Again, 8 goals, 2 assists, but again, he could turn out to be a superstar. But Serie B, I mean, is that really where we're at? Is that really where we're at? And you look at elsewhere where he's played, the numbers aren't great. He's not played at a particularly compelling or exciting level that's massively competitive. It feels a wee bit like Marco Tilio. That's the only way it feels like another Marco Tilio, another punt from a league, that a guy that's doing well or wellish at an average team in an average league. And that's the problem I've got with these two guys that I've mentioned. Out of the other guys, this is Masmanisha, I think, lays it up. But it's, Jezrun Raksakai, the loan potential for him, for Palace, for me, that's get far more meat on the bones. He's been over in the Super League in Turkey. He's played, I think, about 11 or 12 games. He's scored 4 goals. He's had an assist prior to that. He's playing the Championship. He had a 34-game season with them in the Championship, scoring 7 goals and 2 assists. For me, that is far better than even where he had periods in League One, 43 games in English League One, 15 goals, 8 assists. That for me is something that I would be more comfortable with going with. And we know that's Palace would be happy to give you him a loan with an option or an obligation to buy. I just think he brings you so much more quality. He's played at a higher level and his numbers are better than these two guys. But of course, what do these two guys that I've mentioned, what will they have in common? They will be cheap. And that's the thing. We need to tool up Martin Neill. I say it again, the tagline, he's done his bit. Go and help him out. We've already wasted, let's be totally honest, you might disagree. I think we've wasted the bones of £10 million on Tanecki and Balikwisha, because Balikwisha's just absolute garbage. That boy's never, ever going to turn into what Celtic need. Tanecki could potentially, with a full pre-season and focused one-to-one training with the right coaches, he needs to add product. He needs to add that defensive side. That's something I'll be working on. At this moment in time, we just need to start scoring and providing. And he's not done enough. And I said this the other day when I was using Maz Manise as a reason why we should go and get him, because I've got it right here. Here's my wee trusty notes. He has more goals than Balikwisha, Tanecki, Iheanacho, Yang and Yamada all stuck together. And he's only got 2 goals less than all those with Kenny chucked on top. That's, for me, that's wasted money. I think that Tanecki could become another Yang. And again, you know my thoughts on Yang, the best of a bad bunch, but I never feel that he's going to be truly consistent to hang your hat on. He's a glorified squad player that will have wee patches of play where you go, that's good. I think Tanecki's just a very expensive version of Yang. I think that's what we're going to end up with here. I saw the rumours that apparently Hamburg had offered £11 million for him that was refused. Now, I might be wrong on this one, but I don't think he can play for anybody else, because he did not play, was it Hammarby he was at, and he played in, I think, European qualifiers before coming to Celtic. So if that's the case, he can't go elsewhere. So as I said, if that is accurate, then I would say whatever apparent bid that Celtic have meant to have turned down from is just pish. It's just newspaper talk. And that's, correct me if I'm wrong. If he is able to be sold, then do let me know. But hi, Michael, Tanecki is MJ in disguise. It sounds familiar. Does. Or Haksabanovic in disguise, or Borikter in disguise. Insert sort of winger that was brought in that was crap. Or Palmer. It's funny. And that's the thing. It's as sad as it sounds. If there was a recall, you'd take back Palmer. Like you'd take him back. You know what I thought of him? But yeah, I just think that, sorry, I went off a wee tangent, but the Tanecki rumour of this apparently turned down a thing. I don't think it can happen. But maybe there is, I don't know. Maybe it's domestic games. I don't know. I really don't know. If you do know, let me know. Reggie Blinker, Mo Salah. Don't speak ill of Mo Salah. Mo Salah these moments. There you go. I'll defend Mo Salah. Imagine that. But yes, but the last one that's came up is, of course, we've mentioned the potential, say, Nico Segur, all went quiet in that number 6 that we need, as we've been looking at as well. Of course, there was the sort of the boy from Bran, where apparently they were wanting Segur, which was going to release him. I think both of them are decent quality players, but the other one of interest is Silas Anderson, who is currently at Häcken, and he is an interesting one because he will cost you money. And I believe that what they are holding out for is around about £7 million. So if that's the case, again, do you see Celtic doing it? I'll be honest with you, I really don't think so. But here we go. Let's get him up. Playing over in Sweden at Häcken, as you can see. Again, he's a young guy, so he's still finding it. Defensive midfielder. So when we look at a Segur, we'll look at his name deserts me again, the chap from Bran. It's good to see something consistent there, that we are looking at a defensive midfielder. And number 6, because that's what we need, right? Let's not kid ourselves on. That's exactly what we need. And maybe this guy will tick the boxes, but I think if the chap from Bran or Segur are going to be again cheaper, guess what? That's the one that Celtic are going to go for. As you can see, very much solid in around the Danish under setup. So there's definitely something about him there. In terms of his output, you can see there you go, starting 11. He's an absolute nailer on for them, and that's it. Let's go to his stats just so you can get a wee quick peruse of what apparently around about 7 million quid's going to get you. As you can see, a fairly, bit of mainstay there. Obviously, eradicate the talky goals and assists, because that's not, he's there to break up play, he's there to win the ball. But 161 senior appearances for what it's worth, 14 and 14 the goals and assists front, and the best part of 11,500 minutes. There is European experience in there, there's qualifiers, and then of course conference where Hacken have been finding himself playing. But yep, there's interest in him as well. Will Celtic opt to go for this guy? I'm not going to hold my breath. I think he'll also fall into the sort of Casper Haw sort of situation where there's a certain price value attached to him. And of course, as you can see there, with the best bit over 2 years left in his contract, that's why they are asking for that kind of money. But I say again, the only thing that I do like is that there's a level of consistency. The 3 players for that sort of central defensive midfield position, they all have a similar stature. They all have a good body of work in terms of senior games. They've all played at decent level. They're all in and around their international setups. And for me, that's at least a good sign. We're not suddenly pivoting and looking at your sort of randomers, your Kwons or your Ebu Kawasis type. That's positive. That's the one thing I do like. And the fact that there's been multiple links of a player in that position really does, I'd love to say make me positive, because I wouldn't trust this Celtic board to run a bath, but at least like the consistency of the thought process, where it just doesn't feel like, randomly closing your eyes and letting off a gun, shooting, hoping you hit the target. It looks like they're trying, or somebody, Martin and Neill and, Fozzie and Maloney at least appear to be trying to have a sort of focus, where maybe it is a 1, 2 and 3 option step down, and that's at least good to know, because normally what happens with Celtic is you pin it all on that one. That is the central defensive midfielder all in, just that one there, and you never get them, and there isn't a plan B or there isn't a plan C. So I'm quite happy with all 3 of the options that have been suggested or touted for that position. And I would take any one of 3 of them. I think any one of 3 of them give us something we don't have, and they improve us. In terms of, as I said, the wingers there, it's Raksakai, it's Gdemis, it's Rezic, and it's Mazmanisi. I think 2 of them are achievable. I think Raksakai is the one I would go for, and I would team that up with Mazmanisi, just simply because the cost value. And I think £4 million, he offers more threat. He's something tangible. You know what you're getting, rather than taking a punt on the boy for Serie B, or of course Rezic as well. So that's where I'm at with it. I would go for Mazmanisi, Rasakai on loan, and if I could get in one of those central defensive midfielders, do we need more? Absolutely. Give me Jamie Lawrence, please, from Tyrrell as well. But I'm no stupid. I think that seems ridiculous that Celtic would do that. But if you give me those 3, I think that's a good start. I think that's good. And with the reintroduction, hopefully, of Iheanacho, with the strength that we've got from Araujo coming in, Sarachi back on the grass training, bring these guys back in, it suddenly starts to look a wee bit better. And I think that would potentially be enough to get us through. Wouldn't hang my hat on it, but I'd feel a lot better. And that's where I'm at with it. So, absolutely. Listen, as I said, we went almost an hour, far longer than I'd intended to do this. And thank you. There's been about 150s in here, as I say. I know there's many podcasts out there, and I do apologise. I've not been able to get the usual sort of up and down sort of interactivity that we normally have there. As I say, I'm flying solo. There's a lot of ground to cover, and it's obviously trying to get through that, get my thoughts out. It's a wee bit difficult. So do forgive me tonight, as it is also quite late on. But the last thing I wanted to see or mention, you probably saw this. We're sitting here talking day in, day out. Spend some money. The money in the bank, all that. You know, you couldn't paint a red neck on Celtic if you tried, could you? Because they put out a post, and I was on the phone with my mate, and I hadn't seen it, and he told me about it. And I swear I nearly crashed the motor when he told me. He said, "Have you seen the post of Celtic?" I was like, "Oh, is that a sign or something?" He said, No. Not a game against Rangers. Aye, what is it? They might charge you £15 to watch it. inside the Celtic bar, or 35 quid to watch in the lounge. What? Seriously, I mean, you really couldn't. You couldn't paint a redneck on Celtic, could you? Imagine, seriously, and I'll say this, right? I've said a million times, not one more penny. You know where I'm at with it, right? And I don't normally do this, but see if you are giving them 15 quid to get entry, to go into the Celtic bar, to watch that, let alone 35 quid to go and sit and watch it in the lounge, then you are part of the problem. Unacceptable behaviour. Unacceptable behaviour for Celtic. Unacceptable behaviour for anybody doing that. Now, people will say about, spending on merchandise and that, and listen, I'm going to say, there's deals to be had. I would say don't give them the money. But see if you went and spent 35 quid on a top, all right, I would say I wouldn't be giving them the money now. But at least you've got a top to show for it. 35 quid to sit down watching a telly. Go to your pub. Go to your local. Go to somewhere decent. Depending on where you drink, right, drink responsibly. 35 quid could be anywhere between, the best bit of sort of like 9 pints. Sliding scale. Don't spend 35 quid just to get in the door and watch it at Celtic Park and then pay whatever they charge you for it. You mental. Go and spend it. Go and have a knees up with your pals. Go to your local booze or go to your local CSC and enjoy it. I mean, seriously, do not take... I honestly, it just sums up where we are at. The disconnect is absolutely unbelievable. And a time where we're in another transfer window, I say it again, we're in third place. 6 points behind Hearts, who I think have spent about £5 million this season. We are 2 points behind Rangers, who were 12 points behind us at one point, and they were in 10th. Sacked the manager. And they've spent nothing. 2 loans, okay. Arajo, good so far. Varanka might be good, but still spent nothing. And they're asking, like, with a handout to get in to watch the game. Come on. Go. I mean, it's still a redneck for them to do it, but go and sign 2 or fucking 3 players and then put that post out. The game's not till March. Talk about getting ahead of the curve. Get your money. Mental. Honestly, guys, just sums up exactly where we are at. And they've got a cheek. An absolute cheek. I couldn't believe that. But there you go. That's the way Celtic. But maybe they're asking for it because they hope the folk do it so they can go and buy these shiny players in the transfer window, he said jokingly. But look, that was my wee laugh there at the tail end of it. But yes, let's have a look at the positives. We march on. Celtic take care of business. It's 4-2 against Utrecht tonight. Safe passage all the way through to the next round. We can, of course, as you know, register new players for that next round. So let's go and do it. Let's go and get ourselves involved. Let's get some players in the door. Minimum of 3 good players. We need another striking option, I'd say. We need a good winger and we need a central defensive midfielder. Absolutely bare minimum. If you want to be smart, Celtic, if you want to really do something, make it 4 and chuck a defender in there. And then I think we are looking pretty good. We're still light, still squad depth might not be there, but those type of 4 players with potentials returning back from injury, and it suddenly starts to look a lot better. And I remind you again, Celtic, you've spent 15. In fact, you've not even spent 15. You've spent about 13 million quid all season. All season. And you've still got about 15 in profit lying over. Go and spend it. Plus whatever you got from the fans who did take up their Europa League package and everything else in beside. So, no excuses. Don't hang Martin and Neill out to dry. Don't hang us fans out to dry. Get the job done. And what I will say is see after this, for total clarity, see whenever the transfer window slams shut on Monday night, right? I want 2 things to happen. 1, I want to see a couple of players. I want to see a minimum of 3 players at Celtic that are going to do something for us in the positions I have just discussed. And then, see on Tuesday morning, I want the announcement that Michael Nicholson has either been resigned or has been sacked. It's as simple as that. He could go and buy 20 players this transfer window. he should still be sacked and relieved of his duties, because he has been nothing short of a complete and utter disaster. And you can chuck all his pals in with it as well. But he has, well, a handful of days to walk out of Celtic with his head a wee bit held high, to at least have given us the bare minimum that the manager deserves, that the fans deserve, and that our players need. That's the bare minimum that has to happen. And he can disappear, right? Because he gets paid healthily for serving up dross and delivering poor results. And they'll look at it and go, oh, look. And I certainly hope not that they don't look at it and go, oh, 4-2 tonight, we get through the next round. Those score's not that bad. Score is that bad. Tonight was absolutely just, I say red rotten. I mean, it's a good result, but it just sums up the state of play with Celtic, where so inconsistent. You have these wee bouts of positivity, beating Rangers, semi-final, getting it in the way, joy, good performance, boom, miserable, Wilfred Nancy. Can't take Kerry, couple of days to do this, go and get the players. You now know the lay of the land. You're through to the next round of Europe. You've got a wee bit more money. You've got something on 3 fronts to play for. Go and make a fist of them all if you can. Admittedly, Europe will be a wee bit of distraction, and it's no ideal with the squad to have that midweek weekend game, and obviously be playing second to Hearts and Rangers. It's no nice, it's no ideal, but let's take care of business, Celtic. Couple of days to literally drag ourselves out the mire and back into this. It's a very winnable league. 2 games against Rangers, 1 against Hearts. Now, of course, even if we won those games, we still would require favours, because you still need other teams to take points off of Hearts, because we've only got 1 game to turn around them from it. But I think that would happen. But Celtic need to give themselves the best chance possible. And, the thing is, I see the comments, and I'm not foolish to the reality of it. What I expect for the board versus what I think I'll get are 2 different things. I'm long in the tooth. We've lived through all these before. And it is literally, I hate saying keep the faith, because it's so hard to do. And it's, such a easier said than done thing, because they give us no reason to show faith. But it literally is, it's cross your fingers, hope, pray, and try to have faith. Try to just hope and be positive that something will happen, because everything's aligned. Everything's aligned in terms of this. There's no wiggle room here. We've said before, kind of a wee bit dramatically, if we don't sign players in the summer, this could be a rough season. And we've said all that stuff before. This literally is make or break. This is more make or break than it's ever been for Celtic. This is basically just the equivalent to COVID season, right? This is what it is. That's how severe it is. They need to stem the bleeding, and they need to, stitch us up and get us moving. And it is literally this or nothing. If they do not do it, we win hee-haw. And there's a high chance that we do finish 3rd. Because I'll be honest with you, I've said that a million times, I'll be totally transparent with you. I don't believe if we don't add to this squad that we'll win the league. I don't think we will at all. No chance. Not with what we've currently got. No chance. But if we add 2, 3, even, let's go crazy, 4 players, then yes, fully. But this squad, just as it is right now, can't keep going to the well. It's too hard a job, Celtic. Go and support the manager. Give us fans something to be positive about. And after the transfer window's done, see you later, Nicholson, because there's nothing else for you really to do. There's nothing else that you can affect. You can make things worse, just go away. And also, further running, get in chat with the fans, and get all the fans back in the stadium. That's the 3 things that need to happen, Celtic. Signings, Nicholson gone, fans back in. Make it happen. There's a couple of days to make it happen. So anyway, thank you very much to all yous for tuning in tonight. If you're watching on catch up, again, thank you for it. Make sure before you leave, big thumbs up if you like what you've seen here, and of course, subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing. It's 100% free. So until the next time, take care of yourselves, and as always, hail, hail. We will see you again at the weekend as we have Falkirk at home. Bye-bye.